you. So I want to read from John O'Donohue. I feel like, I know I've read this passage before to you all, but it's just one of my favorite books of all time. To Bless the Space Between Us by John O'Donohue. If you don't know of him, he's a wonderful writer. Okay. So he's talking about new beginnings, and it's just this perpetualness of spring that, well, not the perpetualness, the suddenness of spring that is all around us, and it's just so beautiful. And I hope everybody's soaking up some of the energy of spring. And it, of course, reminds me of new beginnings because the earth is so brave every year. So I just want to read a little excerpt from something he wrote in this book about beginnings. I'm not going to read the whole thing to you. And then I'll read his poem on new beginnings. Okay, so there is a certain innocence about beginning, with its excitement and promise of something new. But this will emerge only through undertaking some voyage into the unknown. And no one can foretell what the unknown might yield. There are journeys we have begun that have brought us great inner riches and refinement. We've had to travel through dark valleys of difficulty and understanding. Had we known at the beginning what the journey would demand of us, we might never have set out. I think of that with parenting sometimes. Yet the rewards and gifts become vital to who we are. Through the innocence of beginning, we are often seduced into growth. Sometimes the greatest challenge is actually to begin. There is something deep in us that conspires with wants to remain within safe boundaries and stay the same. Years ago, my neighbor here set out to build his new home. He had just stripped the sod off the field to begin digging out the foundation when an old man from the village happened to come by. He blessed the work and said, "You have the worst of it behind you now." My neighbor laughed and said, "But I have only just begun." And the old man said, "That's what I mean. You have begun. And to make a real beginning is the most difficult act. A good beginning is half the work." There seems to be a wisdom here when one considers all the considerations, hesitation, and uncertainty that can claim our hearts for such a long time before the actual act of beginning happens. Sometimes a period of preparation is necessary, where the idea of the beginning can gestate and refine itself. Yet quite often we unnecessarily postpone and equivocate when we should simply take the risk and leap into a new beginning. All right, and so here is his poem or his blessing for a new beginning. In out of the way places of the heart, where your thoughts never think to wander, this beginning has been quietly forming, waiting until you were ready to emerge. For a long time, it has watched your desire, feeling the emptiness growing inside you, noticing how you willed yourself on, still unable to leave what you had outgrown. It watches you play with the seduction of safety and the gray promises that sameness whispered, heard the waves of turmoil rise and relent, wondered, would you always live like this? Then the delight when your courage kindled and out you stepped onto new ground, your eyes young again with energy and dream, a path of plenitude opening before you. Though your destination is not yet clear, you can trust the promise of this opening. Unfurl yourself into the grace of beginning that is at one with your life's dance. Awaken your spirit to adventure. Hold nothing back. Learn to find ease in risk. Soon you will be home in a new rhythm, for your soul senses the world that awaits you. Okay, let's sit up straight and tall. Take a moment to let those words settle into you. Whatever new beginnings could just be the simplicity of a new day, new sunrise. Could be something much more profound that you've been working with. Whatever small or big beginnings are happening within you, let's celebrate your courage. So take a moment to drop into the body, into this moment, and breathe. Feel the melting of your face, the ease, softness, the fullness of your breath. How's your feeling of center right now? Often when we start things that are uncomfortable and new, we can lose our sense of center. So let's begin with a strong feeling of groundedness. Breathe down into your sit bones. Feel the hands centering to your midline. Feel into your third eye. Feel into your heart. Let's bow in and offer an intention. Maybe it has nothing to do with new beginnings. Maybe it does. Whatever is for you today. Let's release the hands and come on to your back. Right, so as you find your way onto your mat, let's enjoy so much of our day. We have to focus outwardly, whether it's physically or just mentally. So let's just enjoy some time in your day that is very internal, just for you. Right, so stretch your body. Feel into that big morning stretch of reaching one side, reaching the other side, getting to know and feel into your body a little bit here. Celebrate your body a little bit by a simplicity of stretch. And then bring your knees into your chest and let's rock a little bit, swaying from side to side. Let your head relax. See if you can feel some ease around your skull. All right, let's go ahead and circle your knees one direction, feeling into your sacrum, other direction, allowing your low back and your hips to rest. And then let's open to the third direction where we pull our knees away from the midline and bring them back into feeling into the range of motion in your hip joints here. All right, and then let's pause in the outermost area, wherever you can bring your knees out away from the midline. Rest your head. Just find a place where you can suspend for just a moment. Melt your shoulders, melt your skull. Take a deep, beautiful breath and let it all out. Bring your knees back in. Let's come into happy baby pose. Grab onto your feet and compress your knees down next to your ribs. So deep compression in the hip joints now. Still resting the head. And then keep that right knee tucked in toward your chest and stretch your left leg on the ground. And move your ankles about, rolling through your ankles, moving through your toes, letting your front of your shin, your calf, your ankles, everything get to open a bit. All right, and then put your left foot on the ground and come into half happy baby pose. So right hand on right foot, drop that right knee down. And notice if you want to tip over to the right, see if you can ground into balance in your pelvis. And slowly start to straighten that left leg any bit that you can. And then lift that right leg up in the air, interlace your fingers behind your hamstring. And let's do another bit of an ankle roll here. Maybe a little flex and point with your toe, whatever feels good. Move your hip into your hands or your femur bone into your hands. So you open up the hip joint, feel the length and space in the spine. And then knee tucks back in and straighten your right leg out. Left knee coming into the chest. A good squeeze here. Move around in your feet. We'll do this slightly different sequence. Interlace your fingers behind your hamstring the opposite way with your fingers, so it feels a little path less taken. And then reach that left foot up, drop your left hip down, press your thigh into your hands, move your ankle about, flex and point your toe, whatever feels nice in your body. Melt your head, let your shoulders relax. And then we're going to grab onto our left foot with our left hand. You can bend your right knee, hug down with your left knee near your ribs, half happy baby. Slowly start to straighten your right leg on the ground, any bit that you're able to still maintain some stability in your pelvis. And then reach that right leg and left leg straight up in the air. Reach the arms overhead, out to the side, or down to the side, whichever feels stable and good for you. You're going to open the legs out like the letter V. Find your breath. And then bring them back toward each other. Okay, our feet straight up in the air. We're going to very slowly lower our legs down to the ground. And you can bend your knees at any point that you need to if your back is talking to you. Just waking up the core a little bit here. Okay, relax and roll over onto your side and come up onto your hands and your knees. All right, so cat-cows. Let's feel the enjoyment of opening up your spine, grounding your spine, arching your back, just taking your time to feel into the mobility of your vertebrae. Any kind of moving you want to do. You can roll around in your pelvis, your shoulders, your head. Breathe things up. Make sure you're breathing well. Drop back towards child's pose. Walk the hands out in front of you. Feel a good long stretch in your torso and shoulders. Ground through your hands. Drop your sit bones. Big breath down the back line of the body. Let's walk the hands over to one side, either side. Drop your sit bones. Again, let your head rest. Open up the ribs on that side of your body and breathe. Come back over to the other side. Open up the ribs. Feel a sense of surrender in your skull. Sit bones dropping toward the heels. And come back up onto all fours. Move your spine about. Right arm lifting to the sky. Exhale, slide that shoulder down, twisting to warm up the spine. Feel the shoulders move away from the ears. Enjoy. Full breath here, both in and out. Right, when we come out of the posture, go ahead and lift that arm back up in the air. Hand finds the ground, switch sides. Arm lifting high, exhale, arm coming underneath. Enjoy the twist in your spine, a great way. Whenever you're warming up your body, you want to make sure you move in all directions of your spine. Flexion, extension, rotation, and lateral extension. So most of our, we always cover all these bases in our warm up, but just notice how good it feels to move your spine well. All right, hand coming back down onto the ground after you come out of the posture and find dog pose. Okay, so as you come into this pose, maybe feel some movement first. You can pedal your feet around a little bit, opening up your calves, your Achilles,
having a little blessing for your feet that carry you all day long. So pay attention to them for a moment. And then yield. Feel the fullness of your posture. So try to be a little more still in the big movements and settle into the deeper and more subtle experience of this pose. Drop into the earth, push off the earth, and feel length and space in your body. Melt your skull. Feel into symmetry. Feel into the space in your hip joints. So lift your femur bones up and back. Feel into the breath. So much to experience in this posture. And walk your feet forward. Come to Uttanasana. Fold. You can bend your knees as much as you want to. Let your head bobble and relax. Maybe shake your hips. And then a halfway lift. Gather up your spine and stretch it long. Thigh bones move back again. Spread out the bones of your feet. Feel the 4 points of your feet root. And relax and melt again. Bend your knees, climb up, coming to stand. Reach the arms up. Lean back a little bit if it feels good in your heart to open in this way. Let's cactus open the arms and squeeze the back body a little bit so you feel that you've got a back body. And release your hands. Interlace your hands behind your back. Open your chest, bend your knees again, and float forward. Let your neck soften. Melt here. Probably you have your hands in the more comfortable interlacing way. So just notice, relax your skull. And then release your hands down. We're going to climb back up again. This time, interlace your hands the weird way. Press your palms out in front of you. Lift all the way up to the sky with your hands. Press your palms upward. A little bit of a lean back if it feels stable in your lumbar spine. And then let's release our hands out to the sides. Big wide palms. Stretch your fingers wide apart. Lift your fingers toward the sky. Roll the shoulders down. Let's lift one ear up. Back to center. And then the other ear up. One more time each side. A little zing, hopefully, down your arms. And then let's go ahead and release and give them a good shake. Big breath in, arms coming up. Exhale, float forward and relax your skull. Inhale for a halfway lift. Melt again. Step your left foot back, right foot forward. Every time you come into a posture, it's an opportunity for a new beginning in your body, something to experience and feel. Let's find the new beginning in the breath. So as we bend and straighten our knee, let's focus in on the rhythm of our breathing. Try to be very patient and wait for your breath to guide you so we're not racing through the breath. And lunge when you feel your breath is steady and ready. Drop in with that front foot, rise up to crescent lunge. Arms coming to the sky if that's appropriate for your body. Feel into the openness of that hip flexor of the back leg. Find your breath. We're going to turn and open up to the side. Drop the shoulders down away from the ears. Use your core to do this action. Feel into that twist. Okay, reach the arms back up in the air. Let's have a big cactus. Open the chest, stabilize your lumbar spine, and then press your hands forward. Palms facing each other. Find your breath. Hands come down onto the ground, back to dog pose. All right, so extend, lengthen. Feel the symmetry. Come forward into a plank. You might notice that your legs don't feel exactly symmetrical because we've done the pose only on one side. So just notice what you're feeling. Integrate into the core of your body, finding breath. Shoulders away from the ears, thighs lifting up. All right, find the ground. So knees can come down first if that helps your shoulders. Give them a good roll while you're here, loosen things up. And then a cobra pose when you're ready. Chest opens and lengthens. Exhale and come back down. Let's try again. Rising upward. Maybe your chest gets a little broader. And then relax. Onto all fours. Maybe child's pose feels good to you. Maybe moving around in your hips feels good to you. Just release the back bend. And then either come to dog pose or just bring your left foot forward. So you decide whether you want to, come onto your hands first and then to a lunge. Either way, we're meeting in our lunge. Hands can be on ground or blocks. I like the blocks especially for this bending and straightening, which we do almost every class, because our spine has an opportunity to find length. If we're on the ground, all the way to the ground, it's much harder to feel your spine stay long when your leg straightens, but you do you. Maybe you have a lot of flexibility in your hamstrings. All right, so feel into the rhythm of your breath. See if every touch point of new sensation you feel is a gift of coming home inside your body. Try to celebrate and revel in sensation, even if it's uncomfortable sensation. Can you still just be aware of that this is my body speaking? Lunge, gather your legs, press into the earth, and then come up when you are ready for that. Reaching the arms anywhere that feels good. So they could be out, your elbows could be bent. You could be in the more traditional variation with your arms up overhead, whatever feels good for your shoulders, your breath. Breathing deeply, the head is relaxed. See if you can have even weight in both your feet. Are you pressing your front foot into the ground? Turn on your glutes in that front leg. And then twisting to the side when you are ready. Where is this coming from? Find your core. Hug to the midline with your inner thighs. Press your front foot into the ground. Feel the crown lift. Feel into your breath twisting you. Back up when you're ready. Take a deep breath. A cactus open through your chest. And then press your hands forward. Palms facing toward each other. Relax your neck. Breathing well. Hand down onto the ground. Back to dog pose. Take your feet a little wider if you want. Just experience some different qualities in your breath when you change the shape of your legs. Okay, we're going to walk our feet forward. Come to Uttanasana. Inhale for a halfway lift and melt again. Stop your seat, rise up. Okay, so we're going to do some different variations of squats. So first, we're going to just have our feet pointing straight. Now you can subtly change this with a little bit of external rotation of your feet if you need to. So you always want to make sure when you're doing squats that your knees and your feet are in the same line. It's okay if your knees go over your toes a little bit. You don't have to try to keep your knees totally over your heels, but you want to draw your femur bones back, okay, so that you're getting weight into the glutes a little bit more. But you decide if your knees naturally go out, then turn your feet out. If your knees naturally go straight, then have your feet go straight. So find your way. If you don't like going up and down in squats, then you're going to just stay. But if you can manage up and downs without getting too dizzy, we'll do a few of those. Take a deep breath in. Exhale. Squat. Try to draw your knees back into your butt. You're sticking your butt way back behind you.
Try to notice if you like to lean into one leg more than another leg. If you have an injury, be so slow so you can really nurse this and figure out a way to stabilize your body so that you're not just leaning into one side. You don't have to go any deeper than a joint says is safe to do. If you're getting dizzy, pause. All right, stand up for a moment. We're going to come into one and stay. All right, so find your way here. Oftentimes we put our elbows inside our knees. For today, bring your arms out to the sides. Drop your seat, draw your knees way back. Feel all the blood supply going into your legs. Ground into the four corners. And then stand on. If any of this up down makes you a little dizzy, then hopefully you remember what to do. Squeeze one thigh over the other, hands hugging toward each other. You can even tuck your chin. So just find ways to kind of stimulate your vagal tone and raise your blood pressure up if you need it. Okay. All right, take your legs wide, so turn sideways on your mat now. And we're going to do a little bit of side squatting and then a goddess squat. So you can put your arms anywhere you want to, and I want you to be very gentle. You don't have to go very deep, okay? This is just to get a sense of, does this leg like to weight bear? What does it feel like to transfer my weight to the other side? You can put your hands anywhere you want. Oftentimes when we do this, I have you stay low, but for this one, I want you to come up to straighten your legs and then re-bend into the other side, okay? How is your breath? Doesn't matter how deep you go. All right, now, hopefully we're nice and warmed up for wide squatting now. So this time elbows can come inside the knees. We're going to keep our spine growing. You can kind of push your knees open a little bit with your forearms so you get a good inner thigh stretch. Spread your toes, root into the four corners of your feet. Let your hips drop down. Spin back to the front of your mat for a dog pose. And, your legs to lengthen now. Lift your thighs up and back. A big breath. We're going to bring our right foot forward. Place your back knee down on the ground. Just opening up the hip flexors. Reach up through your arm. If you don't like your knee down, you can always lift it up. Let's have a little bit of a side bend here. So opening up some of those flexing muscles that we just used. And then hands come down. Take your right arm on the inside edge of your right leg. And so runner's lunge. You can keep your knee down on the ground. You can lift that knee up off the ground. And so find what's available to you. Wide sit bones, spine is long. Back to dog pose. Full breaths here. Switch sides. Left foot is forward. Right knee comes down on the ground. Pad underneath it. Lift it up if you'd rather. See what feels good. Climb up onto your hands onto that left knee and reach the right arm up in the air. Maybe a little bit of a side stretch here. Hug into the midline with your legs. Full breaths. And then release the hands down. We're going to take our left arm on the inside edge of our left leg. And so your back knee can stay on the ground, or you can lift it up off the ground. Wide sit bones. See what it feels like to keep your pelvis square instead of letting that right hip droop. Lift your right thigh. Extend the spine. All right, and then stretch back to dog pose. Enjoy the evenness and balance and symmetry.
A full breath. Let's come forward into a plank. Find your breath here. Put your knees down onto the ground. Any back bend that you want to do. So it's all good. So anything that you want, your legs can lift up, your arms, whatever feels right. And then find your way back to all fours. Now, you can do this with your knees down on the ground for a little bit more ease and to protect your shoulders. Or you can do this from a plank. We're going to do some lateral mountain, I think they're called mountain climbers. I don't know what they're called, but this is what we're going to do. We're going to come to a plank and we're going to bring our right knee up toward our right armpit and back. And then the other side. And if you're doing this on your knees, you just lift one knee up and place it back down. So either way, it doesn't matter which version you're doing, but try to lift the knee toward the armpit, get your obliques to turn on. Not only are we doing some intense hip flexion, but we're getting our side bodies to share the burden of that journey. How's your breath? Hard when you're using your core to breathe. All right, and then relax and melt in child's pose. Take the arms out in front of you or down at your sides. Allow your knees to deeply sink into the bend. And it doesn't matter, maybe your butt's pretty high in the air and your knees don't flex really well. Just go where your body goes. Come to the edge of your flexion in your knees. All right, and then back up to dog pose. Finding your breath. Walk your feet forward. Come into Uttanasana. Wag your tail, shake your head. Drop your seat and rise on up. Okay, so hopefully our hips are super nice, warmed up. Now back to the goddess pose I promised you. Okay, so we're going to rise up. And then exhale and come down. Now, your feet, you want your knees and your feet to be on the same line. So try not to let your knees cave in. You want to have that alignment, doesn't matter where it aligns, just make sure they are aligned. Do whatever you want with your upper body. You're going to come in and out. And then again, if you have a joint, a hip or a knee or an ankle or something that isn't super happy with what you're doing, how can you adjust? Can you go just little baby squats? Or just try not to do this where you're leaning into one leg. See if you can keep symmetry as best as you can, even if it means you need to slow down, lighten up. And of course, if you're dizzy, stay in the squat. We're all going to come down after this next. Take a little moment to stretch your thighs. And we're going to come down in a full goddess pose. Drop your feet, spin your dartlets. So if you don't know what I mean, grab onto the ground with your 4 points of contact, big toe, pinky toe, inner and outer heel. Grip the ground a little bit and spin your toes back toward the wall behind you and your heels forward toward the wall in front of you. Use some extra muscles. Drop weight into 4 corners. Lift your spine. Relax your shoulders. Stand up, straighten your legs. Now, you're very warm for our traditional standing poses now. So enjoy. You've got a lot of warm up around the whole rim of your pelvis. We've done a lot to warm up the whole rim. Take a deep breath in. We're going to start with Parsvakonasana, elbow on your knee. Stretch your arm overhead and feel that length in the hip flexor of the back, really the whole side body. We're not going to stay here long, but we're going to come back to it. Rise up, Virabhadrasana. Shoulders soft. Drop your weight into your feet. Breathing well, so try not to cave your knee in. You want to track your knee and toes in the same alignment. Breathing well.
reverse your warrior. And one more time, back to Parsvakonasana, elbow on your knee, stretch and lengthen. Notice this hip flexor of that back leg. Are you pushing the hip forward? Draw it back. Find the 4 points of both feet again. Then come on up to stand. Pause with your legs wide apart for a moment. Lift your spine. Bring your arms up like a giant star. We didn't even do that. Normally we do some stars on the ground. So be in your star in the air. All right, and let's turn our left foot out. Okay. So remember, you can always support. So if you have a knee issue going on or a hip, you can always, the couch isn't, I wouldn't recommend the couch. I'd recommend a wall. You can have a block against your shin to help you support a joint that might be troublesome. Okay, find Parsvakonasana. Reach that arm overhead. Notice if this back hip is pushing forward. See if you can draw it on back. Drop some weight into the feet. We're going to come up and out of there and into Virabhadrasana 2, Warrior 2. Okay. So find the full rim of your hip. What are you working with here? Can you use some of those glute muscles? Maybe try spinning your jar lid here. So the toes, the left toes go left, the left heel goes right. Just a little drag on the mat. So we have a lot of wake up that happens in musculature. Drop your foot, your whole foot into the earth. Now don't lose sight of your back leg. Soften the shoulders. Reverse your warrior when you're ready. And then back into Parsvakonasana. Thigh bone, your right thigh bone moves back. Arm overhead, unless your shoulder seems to need a different journey. Press into the 4 corners of your feet. How many muscles can you turn on in your legs? Okay, come back up. Turn your feet straight. Hands can come on blocks if you want, or you can bring yourself lower to the ground. Wide legs, thigh bones coming back. And now while we're here, we're going to drop into the right leg. So just bend that right knee, opening up the left inner thigh. And then going over to the other side, drop into that knee. Straighten your other leg. Heel toe your feet a little bit in so you can maneuver and come back to dog pose. Put your legs together, touch your big toes. Extend back through your spine, root into the 4 corners of your hands, push off the earth and lengthen. Come forward into a plank. Lower yourself down. And a cobra or any back bend. What feels good? And then find child's pose. You can stop on all fours and move around a little bit. And once you get to child's pose, compress as best as you can. You can have your legs together if you want, instead of apart. That might make your hips feel a little nice after the externally rotated work we've done. So whatever feels good, but just feel into the compression of knees, the compression of hips. Hands back onto the ground. Lift your knees, dog pose. Walk your feet forward. Relax your head. Coming on up to stand. All right, so figure 4, we're going to drop some weight into our right foot. Left foot on top of right knee. Now we're coming into a one-legged squat. So hopefully we're nice and prepared. This should start feeling different in your hip. We're starting to move in the other direction of stretching. Okay, so reach the arms overhead if it feels good. Keep them at your heart. Bring them out to the sides. You can hold on to something. Draw your knees back. Sit bones get wide. Breathing well. All right, stand up, reach onto that knee, give it a good squeeze, and place that foot down onto the ground. If you need balance support, be close by to something to hold on to. We're going to stand on our left leg. Right foot is going to come on top of left knee. And when you do this, try not to stick your hip out and do weird things with your pelvis. Keep your hips in line. Draw the femur bones back into the hip joints, wide sit bones. Your arms can come up overhead. You can be holding a wall. Maybe your arms are out. Maybe your hands are very close into your center. Okay, so squat down to the place where you can. Lift your chest, knees back, soft shoulders. Full breaths. Okay, come out of there. Grab your knee, lift it on up, and then put your foot down onto the ground. Okay, so close your eyes for a minute, Tadasana. Just let your hips relax, let your body come into alignment and breath. And just notice every time you step onto your mat with a teacher guiding you in yoga practice, it's a new beginning. You go into the world of the unknown. You have no idea what I'm going to throw out at you, which is partly why I like to warm up the same way. So there's a sense of familiarity, a sense of comfort coming into your practice, but then you just, you have no idea. We could be doing any types of poses on any given day. And this is the art of stepping into the unknown, stepping into the beginning. And notice sometimes the hardest part is just getting on your mat, just unrolling your mat, committing the time. Sometimes that's the hardest part of being present with yourself, is just committing. So these are the beginnings, and everything else starts to flow. Okay, let's come down. We're going to, hopefully that's enough rest. And you can come onto all fours and maybe stick a hip out. Maybe you want to do another lunge. Let's do that. Let's just get our lunge on for a moment. Right leg forward, left knee back. Just enjoy opening the front of the hip that we've compressed so much, and we're going to compress again. Find your breath. Change sides when you're ready. Left foot forward, right hip back, knee on the ground if it's comfy. Now, notice if your two legs feel the same or not. Do you have, a stronger sensation of one hip more than the other? So just pay attention to your patterns. All right, and then relax. We're going to come into pigeon pose, and we're going to do this. We're going to be here for a bit, and we're going to lift upward and find like the big open chest of pigeon, and then come down. So remember that we're going up first. So I would have blocks to put underneath your hands if you need it, and have whatever support you need underneath you. 1 blanket, 2 blankets, whatever feels right for your support. Sometimes people just stick a block underneath their hip. So we're going to take the right leg forward first. You can have your heel very close to your pubic bone. You can pull your heel a little further out away from the pelvis. Just find a place where your body is content. Check with your ankle joints, knee joints, hip joint, SI joint, back joints. Make sure that your body can sustain what you're doing comfortably. And then hands on ground or the blocks, and lift yourself up. Notice your low back. How do you support here? Lift your pubic bone toward the navel, square the hips. You can even press the back leg into the ground a little bit, press your front leg into the ground a little bit. Find your breathing. And then we're going to come forward into sleeping pigeon. So a block under your head or some support, whatever you need.
as you start to melt into this posture. And once you come down, you may figure, oh, I'm not so comfortable, my knee hurts, or I can't square up my hips. Change something. The closer you put your heel toward your pubic bone, usually the more gentle it is on your knee joint. Okay. Square the pelvis so that your left hip is not lifting higher than your right. Imagine you have a sandbag on the back side of the left side of your pelvis. Gosh, wouldn't that feel good? I wish I had a sandbag handy to just put on my hip, my pelvis. So just imagine that, let it sink. Extend the spine and breathe. We're gonna come up and out of there when you are ready. You can come back to dog pose if you'd like, or just swing that back leg forward. Okay. We're going to come to the second side. Now, usually nobody has two sides the same. So, you know, adjust. What does this side need that the other side didn't? What did the other side need that this side didn't? If your knee is bothering you, I don't know if you guys know let me show this to you while you're getting into the posture. If you ever have a knee that's a little tricky, how do I show this? Okay, I think you can see me from here. If you take your strap on the inside edge of your knee like that, and then swing it behind and then underneath, so that the two edges of the strap are now in the back of your knee. And then, let's see if I can turn my knee this way. So these two straps, when they come around, if you lift them up and wide, pull them apart from each other, it will give a lot of space into your inner knee. A lot of time, you know, because your femur bone and your tibia are on, you know, they are right on top of each other. And when you come into this rotation, there can be a lot of compression. So having that ability to open it up a little bit by using the strap in that way, I don't know if you can see there, that's better. So that you have a little gap in there, it can sometimes help. It may not be for everybody, but that's just an extra little trick of the trade if you need it. Once you're there, let's go ahead and find our way into the high pigeon, where we have our hands on blocks and we're open. Check out your spine. Try not to fall with your belly and your ribs. Integrate. Press your legs into the ground like you want to lift yourself off the earth. And then from that place, start to come forward and put your head on hands or on a block or on whatever you find. Full breaths here. Breathing well. Are ready to come out of that posture. Hanging on up. If you like dog pose in between, take dog pose in between. We're going to come onto our right side. Okay. You can put a blanket or a block under your head if you need it. Knees are bent. Reach your left knee toward your chest, grab onto the front of your left ankle, and then stretch that leg away.
So obviously we're stretching our quadriceps, but try not to overarch your back. So we're stabilizing through the pelvis. We're stacking our left hip on top of our right. We have a reach of the knee, a reach of the tailbone toward the knee, and a lift of the pubic bone toward the belly. Try not to let your knee lift up in the air. Keep your knee in line with the pelvis.
All right, relax. We're gonna roll right over onto our left side and stretch our quad on this side. So grab on with your right hand to your right ankle and then lengthen that knee away. Okay, so enjoy. Allow your head to rest. Stabilize your pelvis. We're stacking hips. Tailbone extends towards knee, pubic bone toward belly button. How is your breath? If you want to kind of gain a little bit more stretch in the hip flexors while you're here, all you have to do is pull your whole femur bone back a little further. But be very mindful that you're stabilizing your low back. You're not compressing the low back. Okay, relax. Come out of there onto your back. Go grab a block. Okay. Breathing well. Pelvis up on a block. Restorative bridge pose. So I don't want you to have any work in your hips right now. So definitely take support. Put a block underneath you so you can start to melt. Then either one leg or two legs straight and your heels on the ground. If you're doing two legs at a time, even with one leg at a time, experiment with where you want your leg to land. Do you want it to be hip width? Do you want it to be a little wider than hip width? Or just opening up the hip flexors? Maybe the arms stretch overhead. So find the place that's comfy. If you're doing one-sided, switch sides. Breathing well. You should feel good. There should be a sense of ease in the body. You should not have an overtaxed low back here. So go lower with height underneath you, even if it's just a blanket, if you need it. All right, let's bend the knees back, readjust. We're going to bring our knees toward our chest now, a little traction for the back, passive flexion in the hips, just let them relax. You can take your feet wider like happy baby. You can take your knees together, whichever feels good. And then lift those legs straight up in the air. Just let gravity help you. Feel a flush as if there's waterfalls of your lymph from your feet down into your ankles and your shins and calves, knees, thighs, all the way to your pelvis. Just feel the sense of all the fluids in your body, your blood, your lymph, and just release toward your heart. Suspend your legs so that there's no work. Relax your knees, put your feet on the ground, get the block out of there. A simple twist, move your hips over to the right, knees come up, drop them left. If you want to have the top leg straight and have a deeper stretch in the outer hip, then go for it. And if you want to keep your knees together, that's great too. A full breath here. Full exhale, full inhale. Lift the hips back up. Scoot your hips over to the left. Knees drop right. Turn your head left. Open your chest left. If you want to stretch the top leg straight, keep your knees together and grab onto your calf, your pants, your big toe. Otherwise, keep your knees together and your ankles together with knees bent. Big breath here, no matter what you're doing. Can you breathe well?
relax and come out of your twist. As you come to Shavasana, you might want to put your legs up the wall. I'm going to put my legs up my couch, kind of like in a half Viparita Karani. Maybe you just want to put some support underneath your knees, like some blankets or a bolster or something. So however you're going to feel like your legs and your pelvis can rest the best, that's the position for you right now. So melt your body once you get into the position you're going to be in. If you're at all cold, make sure you have something to cover you. If you have an eye pillow, you can put that over your eyes. Allow your body to rest. Just feel into how the breath feels, how the breath makes you feel. Now it's completely one more time. Start moving. Start small with moving fingers and toes. You can move more. Eventually
Finding your way to your side. Come up to sit as you feel ready. Let's have a moment of just offering the momentum that we cultivate in our practice of really just cultivating presence and energy, freedom of our body and breath. Whatever we kind of brought into an energetic exchange, let's move it outward and share. Maybe with someone who's kind of stuck, having a difficult time getting the engine running. Namaste. Thank you, everyone.